Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. And good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for sticking it out to the last session of the day. I am presenting on a proposal for formalized student evaluation. I put the question mark in the presentation, and you will see the reason why I propose to do that. Yeah, so the outline of my presentation will be that I will give a bit of background, which relates to why I am thinking that we need to formalize a student evaluation of academic advising. And I will also tell you about the change in focus in my presentation from what's in the abstract to what we are having now. I will explain a bit about academic advising and the role of academic advisors, and then lead the conversation into how we can have students evaluating our work as academic advisors and some of the personal learnings that I have gained from just thinking around this work. Then I hope we'll still be able to have some fruitful discussion after that. So this is a subject that I am personally invested in because I joined the Faculty of Health Sciences in 2013, appointed as a learning skills lecturer. But that was on a fixed term contract. And then in 2018, I was appointed as a permanent staff member, and I hope no one is from HR. And I needed to, I was now placed on probation, which is weird. 5 years into the same kind of work that I was doing, I needed to be on probation. And the conditions for probations, as usual for academics, requires a teaching portfolio, student evaluations, and stuff like that. And so I approached the evaluations office to see if I could get help with evaluations. But I was informed that because I didn't I was not involved teaching and didn't have any course code on which to attach my evaluations, it was not possible for the office to assist me. So I requested for direction on how I could then go ahead, because I didn't want to not succeed in my probation. And so I was advised to think of my own questions and just send students. So it was really, I designed the tool, I send it out to the students that I want to send it out to, and I get some evaluation. So it was difficult. I did think it was not going to be, the power relations between your students and, when you are the one asking them to say, yeah, please evaluate what I have been doing. But I did it, and I came up with some kind of tool. And the same thing happened when I needed to apply for promotion a few years ago, and I still needed student evaluations, and I had continued using my tool. And so I still gathered information on student evaluations and was successful about that. So at the point to which I submitted the abstract, there was literally no hope of getting a formalized academic advising tool. Sorry. Okay. And things have since changed. My 6-year journey from 2018 of trying to get a student evaluation tool for academic advising and not getting one sort of just made me feel there was probably no hope in doing this. And so because I had self-administered this tool since 2018, I had hoped that this presentation would be to initiate conversations with the rest of the for us to have a conversation about don't see this as a need or not. And I also needed input because we are already using this tool in sciences. And so I needed input on the validity of the process of developing that tool, its relevance to our context, and any input, again, from colleagues around the value of the tool in enhancing student engagement and improving academic advising practice. But now things have really changed for the better. We have since gotten help from the evaluations team at the Quality and Academic Planning Office. There was a change in circumstances and we did get help. And with effect from yesterday, we actually now have the academic advising is now on the institutional evaluation platform. But this is currently only known by those of us doing academic advising in the Faculty of Health Sciences, because this is where the conversation had begun. And so I am sort of changing direction in terms of the discussion to probably say what I would question really, but I hope any input from colleagues would be helpful, or any aspect that you think would be helpful for us to keep in conversation around this subject would be helpful. So for the sake of those who are not very familiar with academic advising, I would like to put forth some definitions of what academic advising is. It is really a relationship-based educational process. So we try to develop a working relationship with our advisees or with our students, and it's located within the teaching and learning domain, where we are looking at developing a student much more holistically than just looking at least we have the means and the time to look beyond academics and beyond just the grades. So some people we have engaged with looking at what academic advising, how academic advising could be defined, include Winston Miller, right, which is quite long back, but these have been definitions we are and applying the knowledge of the field of advising to empower students and campus and community members to successfully navigate academic interactions related to higher education. So we really desire to have students have a smooth transition into university and through university as they move from one year of study to another. For some reason, my mouse and arrows seem to be playing tricks. Okay. we try to help students understand the logic of their curricula, because sometimes, and I see this most especially in health sciences, where especially at first year level, students have courses in 3 different faculties, and they don't see what health science is about, what they are doing when they are doing chemistry, when they are doing maybe psychology or sociology and so on. So it's trying to help the students understand the logic of their and helping them navigate through the institutional requirements. It could be policies about taking leave. It could be, if you require accommodations, which office do you go to or where do you begin? It's really about signposting, so students are able to more smoothly navigate campus. It's about supporting students' intellectual journey as they navigate through the university and help them entangle the demands of both their academic and personal and social lives and all of those things. We may not get into the domain of counseling, but we point students to those resources as well. If a student is in distress, we will, part of the management process, we will be referring students to the appropriate people who can help. So in South Africa, academic advising is really a social justice imperative. We know the differences in educational backgrounds. We know the differences in socioeconomic status and so on. And it's imperative on us as academic advisors to really try and be those that help try achieve equity for our students. So, and for our university, we definitely contribute, whether intentionally or not, to the overall student experience. So whether we do our work right or not do our work right, ultimately it feeds into the total experience that a student has. And so this is the reason why I think it is really important for us to evaluate the work that academic advisors are doing. And why am I asking for this? It's because I think when we evaluate the work of advisors, we are sending a message that advising is important. If we are saying, you can self-evaluate, then I won't be able to get the professional growth that I could have got, but I'm also robbing students of what they could have got had I known what I could do better, what I could do differently. So I think from an institutional perspective, we can say if we want advising to improve, then we need to evaluate it. And if what is measured increases, then if we require academic advising to increase in efficiency and so on, then we might need to also evaluate it. So evaluation could possibly shed light on the effectiveness of our methods and models. It would help us identify training needs for advisors. It would help us with knowing the effectiveness of our various programs, because it's not just about visual methods, but it's also about the programs that we put in place to genuine. And evaluation could be used then to support merit recognition, as where I started on. I actually was asking for advising for merit recognition rather than for the benefit of students. So, And I think student evaluation could be one way in which we partner with students for their success through recognizing and including their perspectives as shaping experiences from what they get from academic advising. So little is currently in place, according to the literature, with regards to rigorous assessment of academic advising practices. Even though there are some instruments, you can see from the examples here, there are people who have developed instruments, but the use of those instruments is really not reached many institutions, even within the US, where of the conceptions of academic advising that we are using. And I think we could learn from that gap in South Africa, where advising is still relatively new, for us to already come up with strong evaluation instruments that could help improve our practice and also improve the experience of our students. So this is how I went about trying to develop the tool. I did some literature search, and much of what I got was on the from NACADA, the National Academic Advising Association in North America. So they have a whole range of literature, and they also have core values for academic advising. And so I searched through their competencies and so on to try and see what could be a framework that could be used in developing an evaluation tool for academic advising. And so in constructing that instrument, I came up with some closed questions and a few open-ended questions, and ran these by our, maybe, I don't know whether we would call that validation, but it was very sort of informal validation within our faculty. We have been using it. But I also presented the same idea at the 2022 Health Science Students Success Conference that we had then, and also ran it by our academic advising community of practice. Could have been late 2022, beginning of 2023, I can't remember. So there were some informal conversations around that too. So the framework that I found from the literature was that in terms of advising, we need to look at the advisor's professional etiquette, their interpersonal skills when communicating with students, the ethical principles that their adherence to ethical principles, and attention to student development. This is what I generally got from the literature, which I to develop that instrument. And for colleagues to just have a look at that, as I said earlier, this is already overtaken by events. So if you would like to just have a look at what it looks like, you may go to you may scan that QR code and visit the instrument. Maybe I will give colleagues just a minute or so to browse through the questions while also checking how I am doing for time.
Dr. Khupe, we've still got 10 minutes before the next session.
Okay, very much. I should be rounding off in a few minutes to allow for a bit of discussion. Okay, so what did I learn from doing all this? It was really knowing that evaluation of any activity is very important, and that we need, as an institution, to have a communal understanding of what advising is if we are going to also formalize and institutionalize the evaluation of those activities. I learned the value of student input, the need for systematic implementation as well of the evaluation programs, and that what is measured will grow. That is a mantra that I think will stay with me. And I also learned that I have moved from this being for a personal motive to it being a professional goal that I am intending to, for us all to be thinking about. And so these are some of the references that I used. And so thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Khupe, for your insightful presentation and just for sharing with us your journey working towards developing this tool. Yeah, your work just highlights perhaps for many of us a gap in our understanding of the important role of academic advising and also the importance of evaluating this work. And then just how integral student perspectives are to this process. And I liked what you said about student evaluations as a way to partner with students toward their academic success. So yeah, I really appreciate your dedication to developing this tool, so you can enhance academic advising and ultimately promote student success. So thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us today.
Thank you.
Are there any questions? Yes, Dr. Bissing. Please go ahead.
Sorry, I'm just trying to switch everything on and there's a bit of a delay. So Constance, I just wanted to say that when we think about evaluation processes as we have them at the university, we actually want to expand beyond just the student evaluation of teaching to evaluating different aspects of the student learning experience. And so to do something like evaluation of students, of their student advising experience, is something that is certainly within the scope of our institutional thinking. And what I would suggest perhaps is to have a conversation with QAPO, because the evaluation services is situated in QAPO now, and to explore the possibility of, once you've validated your instrument, of using the same platform that we're using for the student evaluation of teaching, to use that as a platform for administering your evaluation for, to have that kind of done by way of a electronic platform rather than by way of a paper-based platform. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Gerrit. Maybe what not say more explicitly in saying that we now have an instrument and it's now institutionalized with effect from yesterday, is that we have had those conversations post my sending in the abstract. We have had meetings with colleagues within the evaluations office, and they guided us. This time around, they didn't say, okay, go and do your own thing. They actually guided us in producing questions And now we have questions, and they are going to put that into a link. They will give us the link for us to send to students. So we now, with effect from yesterday, we definitely will now be able to have formalized evaluations. Thank you.
That's good news. Thanks.
Great to hear. I think we do have another hand from Abdul. Abdul, would you like to go ahead, please?
Sure. Thanks so much. Thanks, Dr. Khupe, for a very interesting presentation, and really, I think, quite critical work that you're doing in this space. You know, my question stems from what you had said about, you know, the key criteria around the instrument, and you had put there, you know, communal understanding of academic advising is one of the criteria. Do you think that as at WITS, do you think that across our faculties that we have a shared understanding or communal understanding of academic advising as of now?
Thank you so much, Prof. Habib Karim, for the question.
Not a problem, not a problem.
Oh, sorry. But thank you very much for the question. I would not be able to say whether or not we have a shared understanding of what academic advising is, but I think as academic advisors, we probably do have a shared understanding across university, and we also underwent some training at which is by the so within the academic advising role is encouraged to go through that training process. So at least from the perspective of academic advisors, we are likely to have the same kind of understanding. But whether or not our work is visible enough within our faculties, that might be very different. And even within departments and so on. So there are some colleagues that we work very closely with, and other colleagues whom we might not work so closely with. And we also have differing experiences from what we hear in our community of practice meetings. Sometimes we say we attend almost all undergraduate meetings in the various schools and so on, and other colleagues have no idea when those meetings are held because they are not a wanted community in those meetings. Yeah. So I think there is difference in that, and I hope perhaps the senior director might be here as well for her to help in that direction. Yeah. But thank you.
If I could just, respond to that, I think the prompt for my question was, I've taught in different faculties. So as much as I'm in science, I've taught students in commerce, I've taught students in engineering, and also some of the engineering students did biomedical engineering. So they're sort of housed in engineering and in health sciences, part of the curriculum is housed in those different spaces. And my experience is that their experience of academic advising differs greatly across the different faculties. The type of support that's available, even the structures seem to differ. And I wonder whether that instrument, this instrument that you're developing, whether it will benefit from, like you said, us having a shared, not just a shared understanding of academic advising, but that students have a shared experience of the academic advising across the various faculties. Because sometimes my perception is that some faculty students are receiving more in-depth and detailed academic advising support, and others maybe not so. And like you said, it doesn't seem as if all the academic advising is situated within the structures of the university at the same levels across the different faculties. So I guess, that would just be my input. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Abdul. I don't see any other hands.
Sharon,
yes, Fatima, please go ahead.
Constance, just to add that the Formalised initiative that I think is being mentioned so often during this conference, and which WITS is a part of, offers academic advising professional development certification, and that's specifically for higher ed practitioners. So I'm not sure where WITS is in this. I mean, there's a workshop that's coming up soon I think in November. I can send you the details, but I think this is something that we need to sort of get on board, because they've already defined definitions for the sector that's broadly been adopted by all the participating institutions. So I'll put the link in the chat there.
Thank you, Fatima.
Thank you.
Yeah, and once again, thank you so much, Dr. Khupe, for sharing your wonderful work with us. And yeah, as we wrap up the session, we'll move on to the final part of our program, where Dr. Gerrit Wissing will share his reflections on the conference and provide the closing remarks. So, Dr. Wissing, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Sharon. My Teams is misbehaving now, so I don't really know why it's doing what it's doing, but I'm hoping that you can all see me and hear me.
Yes, we can.
Thank you so much. So yeah, at the end of 3 long but interesting days, I think, before I start saying anything, I'm going to paste just the link to the conference evaluation form into the chat. So while you're listening and thinking, perhaps you can navigate over there and do an evaluation for us. Okay, there you go. So we'd really appreciate if you could do the evaluation for us to tell us about your experience of the conference and what you enjoyed and what you didn't enjoy and what we could do better. And possible themes for future conferences. So actually, I want to perhaps beyond just the conference evaluation form to just get some feedback from everybody who participated over the past 3 days about your experiences. And so maybe what we can do by way of posting your thoughts in the chat, to tell us what you think the key takeaways were for you from the conference, and maybe we could do that on a day-by-day basis. And so I'll share the conference program with you kind of day by day as a reminder of what you saw, and then maybe you can tell us in the chat. Just do that and see if it works. Please let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes.
So much. I have to do that in a different way. Yeah. So we had, to start off with, Prof. Roxana, who had some really thought-provoking questions to ask Prof. Francois, who shared some principles around kind of student success broadly, but also some of the approaches and strategies that they're using at the University of the Free State. And for those of you who know the work that they're doing there, I think possibly the leading university in the country at the moment, working on student success. Innocent giving us a statistical overview really of where we are with our call them student success. I'm always kind of apprehensive to refer to throughput and pass rates as the measure of student success, but it is certainly a measure of success, and Innocent gave us an overview of that. We had a student panel discussion with Dr. Zina, and so our first 2 conference papers also from Louis Botha and Constance and Abdul Hamid Karimil. Maybe just a comment on that second paper, Abdul. if I remember correctly, you were one of the teaching award winners last year, and I remember sitting in the adjudicating panel and listening to his kind of journey from starting at the university to deciding he can't kind of do what everybody else has done before him, and the success he has achieved with following different approaches to teaching. And so we were really happy that that we could convince him to come and do a presentation for us. On day 2, we had Prof. Nicole, and we had panel discussion by a number of participants, mainly I think with reference to the book that Dani and Tapiso edited, and a number of our staff members actually contributed to. Sorry, Fatima?
Sorry, that's me thinking out loud. Sorry.
Okay, then some interesting questions, interesting papers. I mean that I was at on the second day. When a long time ago, I used to be a teacher, and I used to tell my students that, you know, they don't have to worry about the assessment. If they learn what they need to learn, the assessment will take care of itself. And I've had to kind of modify my thinking after listening to some of the papers coming, especially out of the School of Accounting, around the work that they have done to prepare their students for assessments, to work on their assessment literacy. And you know how kind of large an impact really just getting your students prepared in the literacy of assessment can actually make in their performance in those assessments. So I think I might have to modify my thinking around, you know, you just have to worry about what you need to learn, and the assessments will take care of itself, because it does seem that having students well prepared for the assessment that they're going to sit does make a difference in their actual performance in those assessments. It was nice actually this year from a CLTD perspective to see quite a number of our staff members also participating. Typically, we're so busy with facilitating the conference, and this year we actually made some time to do some contributions ourselves. And so from me to the team members, thank you for those contributions as well. Then this morning, I was really interested in Dr. Beetham's paper. I think mostly excited about the possibility of perhaps looking at the resources that she shared and seeing what what we can draw from that for our environment, and perhaps how we can have some cooperation with her to learn from the work that she's done. So I had a thought earlier today that this conference, I think, was really good in sparking conversations. I saw in our CLTD WhatsApp chat that Rita mentioned the same thing, that we need to have these kind of conversations more often. And I think this conference was a really great sparker for conversations that we're going to have in the near future. Sorry, Abdulhamid, you're quite right. I looked at the conference feedback of yesterday, and many people were really I want to say moved by Prof. Imad's contribution and the thinking that she has around maybe renegotiating the agreements and making learning experience a little bit more friendly and accessible. And yeah, Rita as well. Rita says wasn't absolutely right with the deep and yet engaging practical takeaways. And I think perhaps a good conversation to continue with. I would really like for Prof. Imad to come back and show us in a course, practically, showing screenshots of the conversations that they were having in the courses, so that it's kind of good to have a theoretical discussion, not a theoretical, but a presentation of what she did, but to go a step further to actually see into her courses to what she has done, so that we can learn from that. So that's definitely something that I think we've got to take that next step with further engagement. Something else that Rita also mentioned in the chat is that we used to have lots of lunchtime conversations at CLTD, and that's kind of fallen by the wayside. And perhaps that's something also that we need to resurrect, not just from CLTD, but as an institutional practice, that we take our lunchtimes to have some, what do they call them, brown bag lunches around specific topics. Yeah, and then just a little bit earlier, the critical dialogue that we had, that was actually a good conversation and an exciting adventure for Sibongile, who had to make everything work, putting her in a warm chair, as it were. So if you have any thoughts about what exactly you would like to take from this conference into your classroom, perhaps, or what it is that is making you think deeply about the way in which you've been doing your university teaching, we'd love for you to share that in the chat. Then at the end of the day, what I really need to do is to thank the CLTD team for the really hard work that they've done. Actually, from starting quite early in the year, or already to think about the theme of the conference, and to think about keynote speakers, and to start the process of setting up the conference website, and I think especially the really, everybody in the team contributes, and during the course of the conference with facilitating sessions and so on, everybody contributed. But I think the sleepless nights were probably experienced mostly by Fatima. So Fatima, thank you very much for your hard work on this, and she was really well supported by Candice. So Candice, also thank you very much. And then for our external partner from Wits Enterprise, Sibongile, you and your team. This conference we've managed it before, an external partner before, so it's possible. But I really don't want to do that again. And I'm so grateful that we started this partnership with Wits Enterprise. So thank you very much for the hard work that you and your team have done behind the scenes to make this conference work. Finally, just again, a reminder to complete your conference evaluation. Let us know what it is that we can do to make your conference better. And as a parting shot, maybe if I can ask you, if you are willing to do so, to switch on your cameras, and let's just give each other a wave goodbye. And again, thank you all of you for, I forgot, the presenters for the papers, and for the courage that you took to stand up in front of a rather large audience to share the work that you've done. We really appreciate you. Obviously, our conference wouldn't have happened without the contributions that you made. Thank you very much to everyone who presented, but also to everyone who attended and participated in the conversations. Thank you very much. And if you want to switch on your cameras and give a final wave goodbye, thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day.